Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Paige, for those of you that haven't tuned in before, and I was a part of a cult for about 7 or 8 years as a young adult, and for the last 5 years, I have been free from that environment. And the primary purpose of my YouTube channel is that I want to share my experiences in that unsafe environment in hopes that I can help someone else that's in a similar circumstance. So today I want to explain why I refer to my former church as a cult or a cult-like church. I think when most of us imagine a cult, we think about those stories that have been sensationalized in the media. The sex trafficking, mass murdering, Kool-Aid drinking cults. However, those are really extreme examples. I think that our tendency is to doubt whether or not a church or an organization really is a cult or cult-like when we compare it to those extreme cases. But by definition, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a cult is any small religious group that is not part of a larger and more accepted religion and that has beliefs regarded by many people as extreme or dangerous. So according to this definition, the criteria that an organization has to meet in order for it to be accurately labeled as a cult is that you just have to have a number of people who agree that this place is strange, extreme, and potentially dangerous in some way. And I do believe that my former church fits that criteria, and I would like to describe how that is. So the first part of the definition says that it's a small religious group, not part of a larger, more accepted religion. Now, this church that I went to is part of a relatively small Pentecostal denomination. So therefore, you could say it is technically by name a Christian church. However, this denomination is steeped in controversy. It was founded, I believe, in the early 1900s by a really eccentric woman whose life was filled with drama and chaos, and the denomination today is pretty extreme. They have beliefs about faith healings and speaking in tongues that aren't accepted by most of the Christian church. And to make matters worse, the particular church that I was a part of, that pastor had even more extreme views than the denomination itself. He often, I think, butted heads with the higher-ups in the denomination because he refused to let women serve in leadership in the church. He wanted to have unchecked authority within the church, and he was the sole decision maker in the church, including the one who decided all of the distribution of finances raised by the church and the church-run school. So most Christians, I think, would be uncomfortable in this church. I grew up in Baptist and Methodist denomination churches, and my first Sunday in attendance at this church should have been a huge red flag for me because I was extremely uncomfortable. It was a service like nothing I had previously experienced before at all. Now, the second part of that definition says that the beliefs held by this organization are considered extreme or dangerous. Now, just to name a few of the teachings of this pastor at this church, he insisted that the children of this generation in the world today would see the rise of the Antichrist, would live through the tribulation, and would see the return of Jesus. All of his sermons contain messages of fear and fire and brimstone, and his desire was to instill fear in his congregants as a means of demanding their obedience. He encouraged all of his congregants to separate from friends and family and taught us that the world and everything of the world is evil and scary. He encouraged us to fast and avoid certain foods and follow strict diets. He expected us to adhere to all of the commands of the Old Testament of the Bible, insisting that they were all still for today. And there was very little focus on grace and love and mercy like you would expect to be taught in a typical Christian church. So yes, I think that in many ways this church fits the description of a cult. When I was there were many things that should have been red flags to me, and looking back in hindsight, I do see that these were examples of how this place is a cult. In this place, whenever anyone left the church, the pastor immediately labeled them as the enemy or a Jezebel or as evil or demonic, just to, I think, make the current members disregard anything that these people could potentially be saying or gossip that they could be spreading about his church, because they're evil. So we don't condone or listen to what they're saying. He was obsessed with sexuality and procreation. Almost all of his messages contain topics like homosexuality, being fruitful and multiplying, the story of the wasted seed that I've shared about from the Old Testament, or preventing pregnancy. He talked about nudity and pornography, abortion. He obsessed over father-son relationships and motherhood. And he actually cornered me on several occasions, asking when my husband and I were going to start a family. For some reason, topics about sexuality and procreation, he was extremely obsessed with. He threatened my husband and I when we tried to leave with, he threatened my job. He said that we would never minister again. He said that the spirit of Jezebel would follow us wherever we went. So these are just some of the examples of red flags. If you see anything similar in your church, or if you have a loved one that goes to a church and this sounds at all familiar to you, if this resonates with you, you could potentially be dealing with a cult. But I think one of the biggest red flags was that this pastor actually did a sermon series on cults. And he said that in a lot of the materials out there online and magazines, that there are lists of cults, and that our denomination was often listed on this list of cults. And so we actually had a sermon series on our church is not a cult, and here's why. I think any pastor that feels the need to defend themselves against rumors that they are a cult is someone that could potentially be hiding something or feeling a little bit of a guilt trip there that, yes, this is a very cult-like place. So I just wanted to share that with you to see if any of that resonated with you, and just to further explain myself, because I still do feel like there are many people that I know personally that were formerly involved in that place that may doubt what I'm saying and question why I think it's appropriate to label this place a cult. So I hope that I was able to better explain myself there. I will see you in the next one. Everyone take care. Bye.